country has been a beacon of freedom and prosperity to the world, and our doors have pretty much been open to anyone wanting to come. But since September 11th, a lot of Americans are rethinking all of that. Joining me now is Michael Wilds. He's an immigration lawyer and a former federal prosecutor. How open are our doors? Is it literally true that just anybody can show up? If you're a famous terrorist, can you go get a visa and show up in this country?
Usually a person has to apply for a visa stateside, get an approval from a regional adjudication center, and there are a few of them in the country, the one that services the New York areas in Vermont, for example. And when you get the approval, then petition a local consulate or embassy abroad to issue a visa. In essence, the government gets a few bites at the apple. First, stateside, when an application is lodged either by a company or an individual who wants to bring a relative here or a school. And then overseas, the consul has one more bite at the apple. They can ask to see papers. Show me that you're going to come back here after you use the visa.
But with 30 million non-immigrant visas issued a year, with 500,000 student visas, 16,000 of them from the terror nations, it sounds as though those applications are not getting a lot of inspection.
It's even worse than that, John, because we see that a lot of the intelligence information is not even available to these consuls or diplomats overseas. The FBI database has never been available to INS to check. So a new investigation could be opened up on an individual who comes here under the guise of becoming a student, and they wouldn't know that until after the fact.
Why didn't we know that Muhammad Atta was in a cell of fundamentalists in Hamburg, Germany? Before he came here?
We should have known. The fact is that we should know what kind of courses individuals are taking if they're students here. We need this kind of intelligence. There's all sorts of delivery systems now for people to wreak terror on U.S. soil. And if we have this intelligence, if we have a few bites at the apple, we have diplomats that come here under the guise of diplomacy when they're actually helping conduct espionage with the UN, but a few blocks from this studio. You have religious clerics that profess religion, and yet they're funneling monies through 501c tax-exempt organizations, and you have foreign students that have never stepped foot into a university or an institute.
Michael Wilds, immigration lawyer and former federal prosecutor. Mr. Wilds, thanks very much.
Pleasure.
One of the more disturbing facts about the September 11th attacks, as you just heard, the terrorists were living right here among us, plotting their evil deeds, taking full advantage of our open society. Is it time to make America less open, and should we start by closing our borders? Can we? Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us to talk about that. Let's just say we wanted to slam the door.
Right.
Today. Can we do it?
Yes, we can slam the door today. The Congress can determine how many people it wants to allow in from a given country, and the Congress can determine the circumstances under which they come in. John, there is no fundamental constitutional right for people outside the United States to come here. Now, the other side of that is education, tourism, travel, vested interests that want to draw people in from other countries, but the Congress can regulate that.
Okay, but let's just say I can't get a visa to this country.
Right.
I am Mr. Terrorist in wherever, Syria or whatever, and I want to come to this country. I can't get a visa. I can go to Canada and walk across.
Absolutely.
I can go to Mexico and walk across. Can we shut our borders?
Yes. Now, we have a historic relationship with Canada, which allows people to walk across. This goes back for many, many years. We can stop doing that by a decision of the president. We can enforce more aggressively the border between Mexico and the United States by the decision of the president. We can tighten up those borders in terms of the number of people we even allow in lawfully by a decision of the Congress. All of those things can and should be done and certainly looked at and considered.
Is there anything unconstitutional about targeting a certain group for restrictions? In other words, all the Brits you want, all the Mexicans you want, but if you're from Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, any of those places, we are going to restrict you severely.
There is nothing unconstitutional about that. There may be political ramifications. The Congress and the president can take the heat. There may be no political ramifications because of the environment we find ourselves in. But there's no constitutional right for a person or a group of people from a given country, whether it's Great Britain or the Sudan, to come over here.
Why is it that people who are here feel that there is a right? I mean, I get emails all the time from Arab and Muslim Americans saying, what you are proposing is unconstitutional, it's racist, it's wrong. Why do they think everyone has a right to come?
I think because so many of us are the offspring or the second or third generation offspring of people who did come, and they believe, well, my grandparents came, my great-grandparents came, all they did was get on a boat and come over here, so my cousins can do that now. That's not the case anymore.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, thanks very much.
Anytime, John.
U.S. forces raining down revenge on Taliban targets as the war on terror continues. We'll bring you the view from Afghanistan. As you can see, they're shooting up the place. And as if anthrax weren't scary enough, there are other biological agents just as deadly that could wreak even more havoc. Our Heather Nauert takes a look at some of the other deadly toxins that could be here.